Okay, we're ready to start the high pressure washing operation. The machine is here and we're going to speed it up, and Lindy's ready to go. The idea is going to be to wash all the debris out from under the memorial and get rid of that steel shot. This is the start of the procedure. And here we go. Okay, here we are. Lindy's working on the bottom of this, as you can see, with the high pressure washer, and he's working the debris out from under there. It's a hard angle to work at. I think we're going to be able to accomplish what we're set out to do. Okay, what we're trying to do here is seesaw a piece of... oh, I'm waiting for you on the other side. What we're trying to do here is seesaw this very coarse emery paper on the bottom. We're using the abrasive to get the steel shot that's stuck off the bottom out from under here. Okay, let's move it over a few more inches here. Okay, let's move it again now. We're down a little more.
Okay, hold on a minute. I gotta move to the other side of this bush.
Okay.
Tree, whatever.
Okay. A little more down.
Okay, pull the bar.
Okay, let's move her again. Okay, let's move her again. A little more. Okay.
Hold it. Pull the pin.
Okay, hold it a minute. Oh, yeah, let's Okay, we're using a very coarse emery paper here, flexibly, underneath the edge, and actually wearing that glue and that steel shot right off the bottom. We just want to make sure that we're getting it all. We got the high pressure water, took a lot of it, and once we rub it down here real good and we can't feel anymore, we're going to take the high pressure washer and flush all the rest of it out of here. Okay, now we're going to use, what we have in this jar is oxalic acid. You can see the oxalic acid on the bottom. The safe thing about using oxalic acid is you can't mix it too strong. It will only dissolve so much. We remove some of this liquid, we use it, replace it with water, and it'll come back to its regular strength. It doesn't, it'll never get any stronger than it can dissolve the oxalic acid. So it makes a good material for removing rust from stone, and that's just about all it does do, is remove rust. Okay, let's pour a little bit of this into this jar now without getting into the acid with it. Okay. All right, now. Okay, here we are. We are going to put a little of this acid right on this oxalic, right on the rust stains here, and let it sit for a few minutes. And you know, hopefully this is as strong a material as we're going to be able to have to use on here to do the job. The rust, as we've shown you before, came from the steel shot that was left under here, and it worked its way into the die here a little bit, and it's worked its way into the stone. So we'll just let this stay wet here for a few minutes and see if this acid doesn't fade away. Okay, this has been on here for 2 or 3 minutes, and it gives all the indications that it's starting to do its job. The rust stains right in this area are getting lighter and lighter, and maybe another 5 minutes, and hopefully this will have done its job. We're going to put a little up along the die here, and just in case there's any spots, and then after we get this rust out as much as we feel it can be gotten out, we're going to hit it again with some more high pressure water, wash the debris and the rust away, and I think at that point we're going to have a good looking memorial again. We've gone back to the high pressure water here in the background, and Lindy is blowing out all the material that we've loosened up. It looks like we've got the rust out, and really the project is coming very well here. We've been able to successfully remove all the glue, and the steel shot is all being worked out of there. It'll take a few more minutes. We're going to go over the whole memorial, and the next thing we've got to do after we get done with the high pressure washer is to get this thoroughly dry before we'll be able to join it. Okay, we're back here around the front, and we have been successful in getting the rust out of the granite, and now we're drying it in preparation for lowering the memorial back into its position and prior to joining it. So right now I've got a little wet area that I've got to dry. This has to be perfectly dry underneath before we can start our joining. We're just going to make a quick check now, a final check, and make sure before we lower this down that there's no steel left under here. Run our hand along the underside of the die here. It all feels very smooth, and there's nothing left. It's just as clean as can be underneath. We've certainly been able to do what we set out to do here, and get this into a good condition for joining. It's the condition it should have been in the first place before the die was ever set on top of the base. Hey, Lindy, I'm going to raise this up a little now so we can get those blocks out.
Okay.
There she is. Have you got your final blocks in position?
Yeah. I don't know if you want to.
Okay, here she comes. She's coming down slowly now. Are they getting close to those blocks?
Yeah, about a quarter. 8 on.
They're on there now?
Yep.
Okay, that's good. We're going to be able to do this in one. Whoop. Just put down on the front a little more. Okay. There we go. This.
About 4.
Yep. A lot of weight there. No, I don't. Okay. Now we've got not enough distance. Yeah, we've got enough. We can. Hold it. Not working on that side. Wasn't straight, or she would have. Tell you what, let's
Going towards the die when you tighten it up too. So.
Kelvin, you mean?
I think so.
Okay. You just hold it and we'll hold it. That's the wrong number. Okay, we have successfully now lowered the memorial down into place here, and we're putting a backing rod in. As you can see, Lindy is using a plastic putty knife to poke it in. That is because you don't want to, the reason you don't use a steel putty knife to work the backing rod into the right depth is that if you do, you have the possibility of leaving a thin film of steel on against the steel granite, which will then rust, and we'll be right back where we started from. There's a lot of ways to get rust on the granite, so you have to be careful what you use. All right, we are now putting in a closed cell backing rod that is going to gauge the thickness of the daimonic joint that will follow. If you were to just plain squirt daimonic in there, it wouldn't make a good bond to the upper or the lower surface, and it would also end up being too thick in some places. And if it becomes too thick, the material will figure it's bonded on 3 surfaces, and it will crack or pull away from the stone rather than expand and contract with the temperature changes. The material that we're going to use in here, daimonic, has up to a 40% expansion and contraction ability without separating or cracking, and it has somewhat of a memory, so it will always go back to what has been stretched or compacted from. We find it to be one of the better joining materials, although today a product known as Set-Right is still being used. The Set-Right is a product that was designed back in in 1929. Basically an oilless putty. If you're old enough to remember putty in windows and how the putty always cracked on the windows, it was basically a material of that type, except it had no oil in it to stain the stone. So, but today we have much better products which should be used for doing this kind of joining on all memorials. It holds better. It helps to maybe not vandal proof, but helps it be more vandal resistant because it can't be moved, and it just all around does a better job of sealing the moisture out of the dye. Okay, one final preparation before we actually start putting the Dimonic on is to put some masking tape. In this particular case, the steel finish of the memorial is very hard to clean any excess Dimonic off the stone, so masking tape is in order here. If it was polished, we wouldn't be apt to bother with it. So we'll just run this along. There we go. Whoop. All right, now we're ready. We're going to get right to it and start putting the Dimonic into the joints of the memorial here. Let's go for it, huh? Okay. The idea here is to adequately fill the joint without overfilling it. If you put too much in, you get yourself a lot of extra work trying to clean it up, and if you have too little, you're not going to have a good seal or a good joint. If you've ever watched a welder or had any welding experience, it's sort of like pushing a bead along here. You just keep a steady flow of material kind of working in front of the tip of the gun, and if you do that, it'll assure you that you have properly filled the joint. Okay, hit the trigger, wipe the end off, and let's go around the corner here. Now, once we Okay, now let's put the finishing touches on it. All I have right here is a very small amount of ivory soap, probably 1 to 10 parts of water, and I shake it up, and I get a little bit of bubbles out of the end, and I put it on the end of my finger. That allows me to do the jointing here. What I'm doing is smoothing the joint and forcing the joint in against the die and the base and against the backing rod that is gauging the depth of the joint. And as you notice, I'm stroking towards the end that I've already finished. You wouldn't go the opposite way because you would tend to build up an amount of material under your finger. So you keep going short strokes towards the area you just finished, and give a smoothing out stroke every once in a while. This way you get a real good finish without a lot of build up in front of your finger from just continuously carrying it forward with you. Alrighty, here we get a good close look, and as you can see, the finger makes a good tool. I'm not necessarily recommending that you use your fingers. They do make metal tools, and to be quite honest, I've found them very unsatisfactory, although if you do this day in and day out, you're liable to wear the fingerprint right off from your finger. And in fact, it's quite easy to get the skin so thin on your fingers you could draw a little blood, and you want to remember that blood stains stone. You don't want to do that. So you got to use your judgment as to how much jointing you're going to be doing. In this case, we only have a short number of feet to joint, so we're not going to wear the skin off our fingers. Okay, we're just kind of trimming this little corner up here, and here again we're going to always stroke towards the area you just have tooled. And a little more here, and we have the joint finished. Now, about the only thing we have left is to remove the masking tape, and we'll get at that in just a moment. We're back here at the beginning, and off comes the tape. The idea here is there's going to be a little material on the tape. You pull it up and away from the joint so that you don't get any material down on it. We no doubt have to go. What we're going to do is go back and kind of... now that the tape has been removed, we're going to go back to our soap bottle, and let's do just one more touch up any areas that the tape might have pulled up. As you can see, we have a nice finished looking joint. You do see a little soapy water left laying on there. However, that will dry up in a few minutes in this breeze, and will just disappear. A very good, clean looking joint, and has a very professional look about it. It's not only looks good, to my best judgment, there's no better joint that can be put on today, one that's going to last any longer than this type of joint. It has all the elements to keep the water out, and I think as you drive by on State Street from now on, the joint area is going to be dry as soon as the rest of the memorial is, and you're just not going to see that moisture we've seen ever since this memorial has been set here. All right. We now have this memorial jointed. We feel comfortable that it's in very good shape right now. As you notice, we have a few smudges from working on this, and we're not going to attempt to clean up those smudges today because the joint is too fresh. We'll give it a couple of days and come back, and Wendy and I will wash that off, and really we've got this memorial looking like it should have been looking a long time ago. And that kind of wraps up this portion of the memorial. For now, the only thing we need to consider now is the restoration of the tablets back here. As we talked about earlier in this presentation, that the problems with the cement, and the problems with the anchoring and the rust, and all these, and as soon as the engineering work has been completed, we are going to get back here and finish up the memorial so that the entire memorial looks the way it was intended to look.